There's a choice in front of you right now, and it's not a normal choice. It's what Edgar Cayce called a choice point, a moment in time where one decision splits your timeline into two completely different futures. And that choice point is happening right now. In February 2026, I'm Bracha, and before we go any further, I want to be completely honest with you. This channel and this voice are created with AI as a tribute to honor the real Bracha and to bring these profound teachings to more people. The message is what matters. The truth is what matters. And what I'm about to share with you is based on real prophecy, real astrology, and a cosmic phenomenon that Edgar Cayce said would force every person on this planet to make the most important choice of their lifetime. I've been studying Cayce's readings on choice points for years, and he was incredibly specific about February 2026. He said this month, between February 14th and February 20th, every soul will stand at a fork in the road, two timelines, two futures, two completely different versions of your life, and you get to choose which one you step into. But here's the thing, most people won't even realize they're making the choice. They'll choose unconsciously. They'll choose by default. They'll choose based on fear or habit or what everyone else is doing. And then they'll wonder why their life didn't change, why they're still stuck, why nothing ever shifts. So in this video, I'm breaking down what Edgar Cayce actually predicted about the February 2026 choice point, what the two timelines are, and how to know which one you're currently on, why this choice is irreversible, and what happens after you make it, and how to make the choice consciously so you don't wake up 5 years from now regretting the timeline you picked. This is not theoretical. This is happening right now. And the choice you make in the next 11 days will determine the next decade of your life. Let's begin. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe, because what unfolds after this choice point is going to change everything. Also, check the resources in the description if you need support navigating this choice. Now, let me tell you what a choice point actually is, because Edgar Cayce used very specific language about this. A choice point is not a regular decision. Regular decisions happen all the time. What to eat, what to wear, what job to take. Those are choices, but they're not choice points. A choice point is a moment when the fabric of time splits, when one decision creates two diverging timelines that move further and further apart until they're completely separate realities. Cayce said choice points are rare. For most people, they only happen a few times in an entire lifetime. And when they do happen, they're usually obvious. Marriage, divorce, moving to a new country, having a child. Moments where you know your life will never be the same, regardless of what you choose. But Cayce said the February 2026 choice point is different. It's not about an external decision, it's about an internal one. It's not about what you do, it's about who you decide to be. And here's what makes this choice point so powerful and so dangerous at the same time. You might not even realize you're making it, because it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet, it's subtle, it's happening in the privacy of your own consciousness. And most people will make the choice unconsciously and not realize until years later that they were standing at the fork in the road and chose the path of least resistance, the path of fear, the path of playing small. And then they'll spend years wondering why nothing in their life changed, why they're still stuck in the same patterns, why the transformation they were hoping for never came. Edgar Cayce said this choice point would be the most critical moment of the 21st century, not because of what happens externally, but because of what each individual chooses internally. And the collective result of billions of individual choices will determine which version of Earth we live on for the next 36 years. So let me tell you what the two timelines are. Cayce called them the ascending timeline and the descending timeline. The ascending timeline is the one where you choose growth, expansion, consciousness, truth, love, sovereignty. It's the timeline where you say, I'm done playing small, I'm done hiding, I'm done waiting for permission, I'm stepping into my power now. It's the timeline where you take full responsibility for your life, where you stop blaming, stop making excuses, stop being the victim, and you become the creator, the leader, the sovereign being you are always meant to be. The ascending timeline is not easy. It requires courage. It requires letting go of everything that's comfortable and familiar. It requires walking into the unknown. It requires trusting yourself more than you trust anyone else. But Cayce said the ascending timeline leads to freedom, true freedom, not just external freedom, but internal freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from limitation, freedom from the old programming. And once you're on the ascending timeline, life becomes synchronistic, magical. Flow state becomes your default. You manifest easily. You connect deeply. You create powerfully. Everything just works. The descending timeline is the one where you choose safety, comfort, the known, the familiar. It's the timeline where you say, I'll just stay where I am. It's not perfect, but at least I know what to expect. At least I'm safe. At least I don't have to risk anything. It's the timeline where you let fear make your decisions, where you stay small because being big feels dangerous, where you dim your light because shining bright might make others uncomfortable, where you keep following instead of leading because leading feels too vulnerable. The descending timeline feels safe at first. It feels like the responsible choice, the practical choice, the smart choice. But Cayce said the descending timeline leads to contraction, stagnation, slow death of the soul. Because when you choose safety over growth, when you choose comfort over truth, when you choose the known over the calling, you start to decay energetically. Your life force diminishes, your creativity dries up, your passion fades, and you wake up one day feeling empty, numb, disconnected, wondering where your life went. And here's the brutal truth that Edgar Cayce was very clear about. Once you make the choice, once the choice point passes, you can't easily switch timelines. The two timelines diverge so rapidly that jumping from one to the other becomes exponentially harder the longer you wait. It's like two roads that start out side by side, but one goes up the mountain and one goes down into the valley. At the beginning, you can easily walk from one to the other, but after a few miles, there's a cliff between them. And after a few more miles, they're so far apart, you can't even see the other road anymore. That's what happens after a choice point. The timelines separate. And if you choose the descending timeline in February 2026, Cayce said it might take years, maybe even decades, before another choice point comes that allows you to shift back to the ascending timeline. That's why this is so critical. That's why this is not just another spiritual concept. This is real. This is happening. And what you choose right now matters more than almost anything you've ever chosen. Now, let me tell you what's happening astrologically that's creating this choice point. Because the cosmos is literally forcing this choice. First, Saturn enters Aries on February 14th. Saturn is the planet of structure, responsibility, karma, reality. Aries is the sign of I am, identity, courage, initiation. Saturn in Aries says, who are you going to be for the next 2.5 years? Are you going to be the victim or the creator, the follower or the leader, the one who plays small or the one who steps up? Saturn entering Aries is the universe asking you point blank, who are you? And you have to answer, not with words, with choices, with action, with how you show up. Second, we have the solar eclipse on February 17th at 28 degrees Aquarius. Eclipses are portals. They're moments when massive shifts can happen instantly. And this eclipse is square to Uranus, the planet of revolution, awakening, breakthrough, sudden change. So the eclipse is not gentle. It's a lightning bolt. It's a shock. It's the universe saying, wake up, choose now. This is your moment. And 28 degrees Aquarius is the crisis degree, the degree that says this cannot wait. This is urgent. This is do or die. So the eclipse is the peak of the choice point. It's the moment when the timeline split is at maximum visibility, when you can most clearly see the two paths in front of you. And then 3 days later, on February 20th, Saturn meets Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. 0 Aries is the birth point of the entire zodiac. Pure potential, new beginning. And Saturn meeting Neptune at 0 Aries says whatever you chose at the eclipse now becomes real, now gets anchored into physical reality, now gets locked in. Edgar Cayce said these three events, Saturn entering Aries on the 14th, the eclipse on the 17th, and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the 20th, they create a 7-day window where the choice point is active, 7 days where the timelines are visible, 7 days where you can consciously choose, and after those 7 days, the window closes, the timelines separate, and whatever timeline you're on becomes your new reality. So how do you know which timeline you're currently on? Because you might think you're on the ascending timeline, but your actions say otherwise. Edgar Cayce gave very clear markers. If you're on the ascending timeline, you feel pulled toward growth even when it's uncomfortable. You're letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. You're speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. You're taking risks that terrify you. You're following your intuition over logic. You're trusting yourself more than you trust external authority. You're choosing love over fear in every decision. You're showing up as the leader of your own life. And most importantly, you're taking full responsibility. No blaming, no excusing, no victimhood. Just ownership. This is my life. These are my choices. I am creating this. If you're doing those things, you're on the ascending timeline. Keep going. Don't stop now. If you're on the descending timeline, you feel stuck. You're making the same choices you've always made. You're staying in relationships that drain you because you're afraid of being alone. You're keeping jobs that suffocate you because you're afraid of financial insecurity. You're not speaking your truth because you're afraid of conflict. You're playing small because you're afraid of being seen. You're following the crowd because you're afraid of standing out. You're waiting for someone else to give you permission to tell you it's okay, to validate your choices. And you're still blaming your parents, blaming your partner, blaming the system, blaming the economy, blaming anything and anyone except yourself. If you're doing those things, you're on the descending timeline, and you need to make a different choice now, before the window closes. Now, let me tell you how to make the choice consciously, because this is not about thinking, this is about deciding. First, acknowledge where you are right now, brutally honestly, no sugarcoating, no rationalizing. Are you on the ascending timeline or the descending timeline? Don't lie to yourself. You know the answer. Second, if you're on the descending timeline, make a different choice right now, in this moment. It doesn't have to be a huge external change. It can be an internal shift. I choose growth over comfort. I choose truth over safety. I choose expansion over contraction. I choose me. Say it out loud. Feel it in your body. Let it rewire your nervous system. That's the choice. That's the fork in the road. That's the moment the timeline splits. Third, take one action in the next 24 hours that proves you made the choice. Call someone you've been avoiding. Quit the job that's killing your soul. End the relationship that's draining your energy. Start the project you've been putting off. Speak the truth you've been hiding. Do something that the old you would never do, because that action tells the universe, I'm serious, this is real, I've made my choice. Fourth, on February 17th, the day of the eclipse, set your intention clearly. I am on the ascending timeline. I choose growth. I choose consciousness. I choose love. I choose sovereignty. I am the leader of my own life. Write it down, speak it out loud, anchor it into your body, because the eclipse is the peak of the choice point. That's when the universe is listening most intently. That's when your choice gets locked in. And fifth, after February 20th, after the window closes, commit to your choice. Don't waver, don't second guess, don't let fear pull you back. Because the first few weeks after a choice point are the hardest. Your old patterns will try to reassert themselves. Your old relationships will try to pull you back. Your old identity will try to convince you that you made a mistake. But you didn't. You made the choice. You chose the ascending timeline. Now you have to walk it, one step at a time, one day at a time, one choice at a time. Edgar Cayce said the people who make the conscious choice for the ascending timeline in February 2026 will look back on this month as the turning point of their entire life, the moment everything changed, the moment they stopped being who they were and started becoming who they were always meant to be. And he said those people will be unrecognizable in 5 years, not just to others, to themselves, because the ascending timeline accelerates growth exponentially. What takes decades on the descending timeline takes years on the ascending timeline. What seems impossible on the descending timeline becomes inevitable on the ascending timeline. But you have to choose it consciously, intentionally, courageously, because the default choice is the descending timeline. The easy choice is the descending timeline. The comfortable choice is the descending timeline. The ascending timeline requires you to be brave, to be bold, to be willing to let everything fall apart so something new can emerge. And most people won't do it. Most people will choose safety. And Cayce said that's okay. There's no judgment. Everyone has their own timing. Everyone has their own path. But if you're watching this video right now, if you're feeling the pull, if you're sensing that something major is shifting, that's not an accident. That's your soul telling you this is your choice point. This is your moment. Don't miss it. From my heart to yours, I know you're scared. I know you don't know if you can do this. I know the ascending timeline feels risky and unknown and terrifying. But staying on the descending timeline is more terrifying because you know where that leads. You've already lived that. You already know what happens when you play small, when you hide, when you wait for permission. It leads to regret. It leads to what if. It leads to I wish I had. And Edgar Cayce said the only thing more painful than choosing the ascending timeline is looking back years from now and realizing you were standing at the choice point and you chose fear instead of love. You chose safety instead of growth. You chose the known instead of the calling. Don't let that be you. Don't let this moment pass. Don't miss your choice point. I want to hear from you. Which timeline are you choosing? What choice are you making right now? What action are you taking in the next 24 hours that proves you chose the ascending timeline? Drop it in the comments, say it out loud, make it real. And if this hit you in the soul, subscribe because we're walking the ascending timeline together. This is just the beginning. Your new life is just the beginning. Everything is just beginning. Let's go.